Welcome to Late to Bloom, the podcast where we discuss, or I discuss, spirituality, personal growth, and philosophy. And in today's episode, I want to discuss religion and trauma, and how trauma does not have an expiration date. Because some people, even though they don't say that, it feels like they think that. And this is completely unscripted, or I have no bullet points as I usually do. I don't have a script usually when I do the podcast, but I have bullet points usually, but I don't have it this time. So we will see how this goes. I just had this on my mind. We'll see how long I can talk before I need to go, because of I'm going to trauma-informed therapy soon today. So yeah, that is what we are doing. I can't speak. It was a while ago I actually sat down and made a video or like a podcast, and just sat down and spoke to you, because even though I have uploaded videos, it was a while. It goes some time between them, so I will see how much better my speech gets in the end of the episode. Oh, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I have a new setup. Again, I'm experimenting with backgrounds and light and all those things. And here I have a window in case I need more light. We'll see how this goes. I have actually organized in the background things I want in the background of here is my CD. Anyway, if you're listening on Spotify, you can't obviously see these things because I only upload audio. But yeah, what got me to think about the thing with trauma and how long you are allowed, in quotation marks, to grieve or to process your trauma. I got to think about it the other day when I was chatting with a person I care deeply about, and a person I know cares deeply about me as well. But she said something that made me almost ashamed, because it has gone 5 years since stuff happened. And she said like something along the lines of, it's so tragic, you still have to deal with it, or something like that. And first off, I didn't start with trauma-informed therapy until this January in 2025, because of the waiting list, and because of before that my mental health professionals didn't realize I need special help or like more intense care. So I did other things before I started this therapy, and now it's the correct type of therapy, but years has gone by before I got to this point, and I can't really heal on myself. I mean, if you are traumatized to a certain point, it's nearly impossible to heal yourself by willpower or by just pull yourself up by the bootstraps, or how you say it. I mean, some people might be able to do that, but most people aren't. So that hurt me to hear that someone I cared about said it's tragic what happened to you, that it still affects me. It's equally tragic, or at least that was how I interpret it, and it made me sad. It just made me like, people don't know what trauma is. And when I started to talk about my previous trauma before the last event, she just stopped answering. Maybe she was busy or had something else, or it was too much. I don't know, I can't tell. But nonetheless, it's very obvious how little people know about how trauma affects the body and how trauma affects the brain. Trauma can literally cause brain damage and affects your nervous system. So it's just not correct to think that it's just memories, because even the memories are fragmented. So it's not about memories either, because I can't really remember most of the traumatic events. I can't really remember big parts of most of the traumatic events I have been through. It's my body that remembers. Like it's commonly said, the body keeps the score, and people usually aren't that understanding. It feels like the most understanding people are either those who have experienced something similar, or people who are very open-minded and very willing to educate themselves and willing to learn, or the maybe like people around trauma survivors that are willing to learn and want to support the people in their lives. I think a big part, at least in my family and friends and even acquaintances, why I think something that affects how they know about trauma, or how people around me take what I say about trauma. I think that religion has a big part in the misinformation, honestly. I don't say that every religious person is that way, of course not, but I think religion minimizes trauma, and I think sometimes that religion and trauma don't go together, because I just feel that most religious people that I meet aren't that understanding because of their holy texts, and they are less educated than, if I can generalize, not all of them of course, but in most cases, some religious people are just more into praying or give it up to a higher power. And while I am spiritual myself, I am agnostic, but I am spiritual. I am not an atheist. I don't allow myself to do that. I don't allow myself only to rely on a higher power. And I think I want to talk about how we sometimes find comfort in a higher power, but we can take it too far. Because trauma-informed therapy yesterday was a little bit draining, I'm continuing this podcast today, a day later. And we are going to continue to talk about religion and how it impacts trauma. And I just want to say that I respect religious people, but I don't respect all religious practices or all things done in the name of religion. As someone who is spiritual myself and maybe kind of religious, I have a religion, but I see myself more as a spiritualist. As someone who is in those circles, I don't mean to say like separate me and them, and we are all accountable for our actions, and I won't ever claim that all religious people are in a certain way. So with that caveat out of the way, I will continue with the podcast. I look a little bit different if you're watching on YouTube. Obviously, if you're listening, you can't see that, but if you notice any difference, that is because I'm recording on the day after. Now, let's continue. The last thing I said before I went to therapy, and you didn't notice that, but I noticed that in filming and recording. The last thing I said was that some religious people depend on prayer, and that sometimes a higher power is more what we tend to lean on instead of taking action. And that is also why I prefer doing witchcraft and am myself an occultist and a witch, because I like to take action. Because religion is just believing, but witchcraft is a craft, it's a practice. You do something with your beliefs, and I like that taking action and to do something to influence what you believe in. That's why I call myself a witch. That's why I'm calling myself an occultist, because I'm taking action. It's nothing deeper than that, because I know witch is a reclaimed word. It has not always been a very pleasant word to be called or to call oneself. It has been a highly stigmatized world. Yes, a world to live in, but a highly stigmatized word to be called and to call oneself. So it's a reclaimed word. But I use that word, as many modern witches do, mainly because I do rituals and spells, of course, but it's an action in doing that. It's not only praying. I mean, I pray as well, but praying for me is more like worshipping and spending time with the deity or a higher power or god or a goddess. It's more of a relationship with that, a conversation with that deity. So let's set my phone on silence. So it's more of a conversation. It's more of you communicating by praying or by meditating. That is what it is for me. It's not like an aid for... It's not like a substitute for doing the things yourself. Regardless if it is spiritual things, like doing a ritual, or if it is contacting a mental health professional, or if it is whatever you're doing. It's not a replacement. And many people, unfortunately, see it as that. They don't do as much as they can do. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding rude, but most people don't care. So what would my advice be for someone who lives close with someone with trauma? What would be my advice to people around their loved ones with trauma, that has experienced trauma or still experiencing, and people around you who have CPTSD or PTSD or DID, dissociative identity disorder? What would be my advice, you might ask? Because I'm not going just to sit here and spew out a bunch of whiny complaints. I will actually tell you what I, as a trauma survivor and someone with both DID and PTSD, how I would be treated. So this is not maybe advice for all and everyone with trauma, but it is advice for some people with trauma. But I think we all can agree on, or most people can agree on, that if the person wants to talk about the trauma with you and you feel you are safe to talk with them, ask questions instead of assuming. Don't judge or don't sound judgy. Be a little bit conscious about how you sound, because people with trauma will pick up how you sound towards them. And ask questions in a good manner and don't sound judgy. And it's okay to ask questions, but tell the person that you ask because you want to understand them, and let them tell you their story and their feelings instead of just assuming what they feel and how they think. Also, don't project, or what's the word? Project. Also, don't place your own emotions on the person. If you feel very sad about what happened to them, you can tell them it's sad to hear that you went through this, but if you show that they don't want to feel like a burden. We don't want to feel like a burden. So if you are truly, if it is too much for you to listen or for you to handle this, it's better for you to say that and refer them to someone else, like a professional or some other family member or friend. Say in a kind way, I'm sorry, but I'm not in a place where I can listen to you in a way that is respectful and that is suitable for this serious situation. I'm not in a place where I can do this in the best way possible. So that's why I give you that the advice to talk to this person or that person, or here is a helpline, someone you can call, or give them something else if you are not capable, because it does more harm than good if you take upon yourself everything and the person ends up feeling like a burden. And if you feel like you are capable of listening, because you don't have to do anything for us. We have, I hope, most people with trauma have therapy and people around them professionally that takes on their situation and circumstance. All you have to do is listen and being there as a human being, as a fellow human being on this earth. You don't feel you have to do anything except for listening and be non-judgmental. So if you ask question respectfully, try to, if you don't understand, say in a kind way, I'm sorry, I can't understand this. Of course I can't understand this because I haven't been in that situation. Do you mind explain what you mean about this and that? Try to figure out. It's all about how we treat each other and how we ask questions and how we discuss this, which words we use, and yeah, don't just assume things. Like my person I talked about earlier, say don't use words like tragic or stigmatizing words or pity the person. We don't like pity here. So be empathetic, but don't be like, oh, poor baby, poor you. That's not helpful. So avoid stigmatizing words. And yeah, I think that was my advice. It was a little bit rambly, but I hope you gained something from what I said. And that's really all I had for today in this podcast. I really didn't have more on the agenda for today, so I think I will close here, I guess. And maybe it was a little bit abrupt, but yeah. This was it for today, and I love you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. It's just the 6th episode, but I will make this podcast for how long I can, for so long I can. So there will be more, and this podcast is available not only on YouTube and Spotify, but also on every other streaming and podcast service. So just search for Late to Bloom, and the owner, of course, Trix. And yeah, I see you in my next episode. Bye!